So here's where I'm going to be going over the Inktobers and showing you, this is the book that I used. So as you can see, compared to my hand, these images are not all that big, but they get their point across, which is pretty cool. So we'll start with day 1, and that is poisonous. So I went with a couple little mushrooms here with some grass and a little Alice in Wonderland Eat Me tag attached. And there's the definitions that I've put with all of the Inktobers, which is for poisonous, causing death or illness if taken into the body. So, day uno, there you go. So, next one here is the word tranquil, day 2. And tranquil is free from disturbance and the state of calm. So I went with a lobotomy because, lobotomies back in the day were to horribly treat a number of mental illness related things or personality traits, and a really horrible way that they would go through the eye area of the, I believe, either through the ethmoid or sphenoid bone and into one of the frontal lobes of the brain, therefore creating that lobotomized state, also a somewhat tranquil appearing state. So she's given herself a lobotomy. There's a little bit of steam kind of coming out of there. Alrighty, day 3. Day 3, the word roasted. And roasted means to cook by prolonged exposure to heat, and just a basic little fire demon here with a very long tongue, and he's just roasting marshmallows on top of his fiery head. Day 4 is spell. I decided to go with to represent the song called, I believe, oh my gosh, I forget the name of the song, but it's I Put a Spell on You, I believe. And so hence I did kind of like this demon tongue where it says, because you're mine, the idea of I put a spell on you because you're mine. And so here's the definition: an ability to control or influence people as though one had magical powers over them. So almost, I guess, a love spell of some nature from a demon, which was the idea. And I gave this one kind of like some high maleficent cheekbones. Alrighty. Let's speed this along. So the word chicken, which is a domestic fowl, or to withdraw from or fail in something through lack of nerve and cowardly. I went with a tar and feather approach to this humanoid looking thing, headless as I guess the store-bought chickens. And there's some tar and, let's see if we can get that. There we go. Some dripping tar and feathers with some sort of, I guess, chicken-like feet, but into hands. And yeah, so there you have it. Come on, focus. That's the one, chicken. So there's also a chicken wing attached to the scapula. And if you look it up, that's actually the anatomically correct way. Chickens, they have double bones actually in their humerus area, which is right here, which is really crazy because we only have one humerus, and then we have our ulna and our radius, which would be up here. And this is actually fingers that have been fused, and this is a thumb, which is, I think, really amazing that birds have that kind of anatomy to them. So on we go. What the heck was that? One sec. So I think, oh, that's not the Inktober. So day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, sorry about that. So I'm gonna not say what days they are because knowing me, I will probably have lost count. So this was the one drooling. And I just went with a basic. So to salivate from the mouth uncontrollably. So it's just your basic xenomorph drooling away. He's got his little crazy looking tongue. And yep. Nothing honestly too spectacular there. Okay. And then this, we got exhausted. Okay. So, exhausted, I went with just someone who is trying to sort of break free or struggling against a sheet holding them back that has been pinned to the ground. And so exhausted is drained of one's physical or mental resources. Very tired. So there's that one there. And here we go, star. I went with like an elongated woman, as you can see from her very large neck. Painting herself up with powders. Almost trying to do kind of like a Hollywood feel to a star, as in maybe an actor or actress of some nature. And so I added some little stars in there as well. So it's a fixed luminous point in the night sky, a famous or exceptionally talented performer. And there you go. There is star. Okay. Just to make sure that these aren't going to get stuck together. Oh, so this is Precious. I just went with the One Ring. And with the elven script, when put in heat, obviously you don't see it without heat, but I just want to, to show it off. So precious is an object, substance, or resource of great value, not to be wasted or treated carelessly, which unfortunately Smeagol kind of was a bit careless there. He ended up, misplacing it or dropping it, and Bilbo found it, which later was left for poor old Frodo. And then thus happened the Fellowship of the Ring. Okay. Next up is the word flowing, and I just went with a merman design. So a merman design that I also was looking up some pictures of seaweed and how seaweed look floating in the water. So that's what this is supposed to represent. Kind of like a seaweed looking tentacles. And then we got some gills in the lung area. And then a badass looking web hand. And no eyes for whatever reason. I don't know. I always think it looks kind of cool when you just cut out certain aspects that make anything look humanoid, and just to add that creature quality. So yeah, and that is for that. And this one is, I believe, Cruel. So let's get a shot of her. So Cruel, I went with a unicorn humanoid woman with a hooked back horn. The definition of flowing, which was continuous, graceful, and fluent. That is your definition of flowing. Off we go. So for Cruel, is causing pain or suffering. So I went with, sorry if I'm saying the word so a lot. I went with this unicorn woman, and that she's been shot in the heart by arrows. So little heart-shaped arrows too. And I wanted to go with the idea of the unicorn and the virgin, and how hunters couldn't catch unicorns, except unicorns were attracted to virgins of some sort for their purity. So I went with that kind of story where maybe this unicorn woman was lured by a virgin and hunters shot her, but she got away, and now she's all heartbroken over this cruelty. So there you go. And she's got a little earring. So I actually drew her again for another word, which I will let you know when you see her. She's kind of got this little lizard-looking tongue, for whatever reason, and a big fluffy unicorn tail. Okay. This one, I was honestly a little uninspired. It's a strange word to have, the word whale. Like, I was hoping they would do whale as in W-A-I-L, as in like a wailing banshee of some sort to relate it to a Halloween thing, but it was just a whale, W-H-A-L-E. So, which is a large marine mammal. In this case, I did a narwhal, so the male parading a long twisted tusk. So just a basic little narwhal. With some seaweed floating in a bottle. So this one was pretty cool. And this was for the word guarded. I went with, so guarded is cautious and having possible reservations is the definition of that. I went with a necromancer looking being who is guarding the way into a possible mystical wood area. He has, his hands are illuminated with some form of magic. And if any of you have seen the anime My Hero Academia, there's one guy who is, or one villain in the show, and he's kind of like this sort of spectral force in kind of almost like a business suit, and he has these really elongated glowing eyes. So he kind of inspired me for this drawing. Yeah. Okay. Alright, so another one that kind of stumped me for a little while was the word clock. Again, it just kind of seems, I just couldn't really relate it to anything that was exceptionally Halloween-y. But I just went with this kind of like a represent how even your alarm clock sometimes would rather stay in bed. So for clock, the definition is a mechanical or electrical device for measuring time, indicating hours, minutes, and sometimes seconds. Oh, just this lazy clock person. Still just hugging up their knees and just hanging around in bed, not wanting to get up. What we got here? Weak. Okay, so weak is lacking physical strength and energy. I went with a robot who is at right there at 5% of battery life. His head is kind of like one of those, has a galaxy in it, and it's like one of those static balls that you see at maybe a museum of some nature. And so little electrical currents coming off. He's only at 5%, therefore plugging his neck area into the wall. I also went with kind of a stressed looking shirt with holes in it and runs so that you could see yes, that's what it was to represent kind of like on the Matrix, where they had that kind of not so great looking hand-me-down types of clothes. So as you would see, as him being a robot, maybe he's not given the best fashion of that sort. All right, so this was a cool one, and it was just to represent the word angular. But all my art is quite angular, so I just kind of did whatever I felt like. Angular is having angles or sharp corners, and I went with this ram inspired, again, human-like creature who has cloven hooves with tufts of hair on the back, quite thin legs, no tail. I was going to go to tail, but I figured I'd just give him a little hairy goat back, and he's got some musculature happening there, and he's just munching on some leaves. I also went with goat-like pupils, so it's like the two pupils with the fusion in between, and then very exaggerated ram horns too. So he's actually one of my favorites that I came up with. Also, as you can tell, probably a little more Pan's Labyrinth inspired too, as that's one of my, if not my favorite movie. So this one is for the word swollen. And I went with a demon who is hungover at this point. So swollen is become or make greater in intensity. So his head is feeling, pretty swollen at this point. You party with the devil, what do you expect? I gave him a couple little antlers, and he's got this little bitch bun on his head where he just kind of threw it up, after a long night, doesn't care. So his hair is all attached to his his antlers, and he's got kind of one eye more open than the other. A lot of veins going on in there too, just not feeling his best. And he's drinking some coffee, trying to wake up. I'm pretty sure we've all been in his place at this point in our lives, or possibly will be. And so this is what he possibly got into. So this is for the word bottle, which is a container typically made of glass with a narrow neck used for strictly drinks or other liquids. And I went with my favorite adult beverage of sorts, which it says right here, drink me. I went with your typical paraphernalia for absinthe. So with absinthe, you have your Pontarlier glass that has the shot right here in the bottom, which you would fill with the absinthe. And then this portion right to where there's the ridges, you fill that up with water. And you can add, on top, you have your perforated spoon. You could choose to add 1 sugar cube, a few sugar cubes like down here, or how I like to drink it, none. And, it's one of those things, don't go past the two drink limits. Or unfortunately, you might be feeling the hangover demon vibes. Okay. So our next one is for the word scorched. Yes, scorched, which is burn the surface with flame or heat. And I went with Maleficent. Again, a kind of inspired thing when she turns into a dragon. And a lot of their steam is blowing up her face. This is, I don't know if it's a male or female dragon. It's whatever you want it to be. Well, with almost like a little heart-shaped nose. The flames coming out, obscuring the creature's face. And kind of like some gills happening here just to fill the neck a little bit more. And some tattery webbed like ears too with some horns. Oh, so here we go. Here is another version of our what do you call it? Is she here? One second. We're getting there. Oh, she's coming up. So here we go. So the one I was telling you before, our unicorn woman, I drew her again. You can tell by her fluffy tail, her ears, her blackened long fingers, and her one earring. I decided to draw her again, but this is for the word breakable. But I tried to draw her in a different way. So with some almost like exposed ribs to represent the heart being a breakable thing, metaphorically, emotionally, that sort of thing. And a couple of ribs tumbling down, the whole heart area glowing and shedding some beams onto those falling ribs. So breakable, things that are fragile and easily broken. She has a little tear coming down and a floating hand wiping at her eye. And there's her fluffy, tough tail, and her little earring, and her very angular face and long neck. Okay. Who's this? Oh, Drain. So this is an interesting story, actually. So I had a weird experience, my second time, with sleep paralysis. And the second time, the first time I had it was in Dominican Republic. If you're curious about those sorts of things, you can always message below any questions you have about any of these things or anything I talk about. Feel free to comment below and I can maybe do a video involving something like sleep paralysis or other art. Yeah, so second time I had sleep paralysis, I was pinned down by this very almost like, if you look up a Saluki, it's a type of it's one of the oldest breeds of dogs. It's a very long, elegant, lean looking dog, almost Afghan, but less fur, a little bit more in between that and a greyhound. And I had seen this pinning me down from the corner of my eye. It was quite the experience. And yeah, so I decided to draw this spectral dog being as the word drain. And so drain is a thing that uses up a particular resource to deprive of vitality. As you, if any of you are familiar with sleep paralysis, it's a state of feeling as though you've been drained of your ability to move, to lift your muscles, and it's pretty unnerving, where it's the brain wakes before the body has a chance to reanimate. And there have been many reports of people seeing these dark beings sort of pinning them in place and that sort of thing. So there you go. There's some trippy stuff for you there. Again, comment below if you want me to talk about my experiences with sleep paralysis. I've only had 2. There are plenty of people who've had much more than that, but my second one was a lot more intense than the first. Mind you, the first was like across the world, so. Okay. Off we go. What are we at? Oh, expensive. Yes, this was another one where I was not inspired, just like the word whale. So expensive was costing a large amount and it's highly priced. So if you can read this a little bit, it says, let me see, may receive all that you desire at the cost of your soul. Sign here in blood. So I just kind of wanted to do, an expensive thing would be, getting all that you desire and, at the expense of your soul. So again, another demon kind of, a crossroads demon or the devil or something that you're making a deal with. So I just went with a basic kind of old scroll with some shadowing underneath just to add some dimension and very faded, aged type of writing. Okay, and this one was muddy. Yeah. I really hope I didn't get any snagged, and yeah, so let's hope that I am doing all of these properly. So this is for the word muddy, and it says cause to become covered in or full of mud. And I went with a human, so just a person, turning into a werewolf and just coming in maybe from outside, tracking mud on their hardwood floor. We are nearing the end, my peoples. Okay, so this is for the word chop. I went with a guillotine. I actually had another image drawn under here. I was originally, so I don't know if you can see, but there's like, this was actually a hoof and a cape. There was actually a horse in here, and I had the headless horseman coming to chop your head off. I really didn't like it, so I decided to scrap it, erased it all, and went with a guillotine instead. There's the bucket for your unfortunate head to fall in if you end up in a guillotine area. Yeah, so chop is a downward cutting blow or movement, and hence there's a lot of clouds behind here, not only as filler, but to the fact that the pencil lead really soaked into the paper, and I kind of had no other choice in the matter to add a lot of shading to get rid of the fact that there is a horseman hiding behind all this guillotine action. Oh, and here we come to prickly, these sexy demon legs. So prickly is distinguished from related kinds by the presence of prickles. So I went with, almost tried to do kind of like a mud flap looking woman, but a demon woman with correct anatomy, except obviously her slightly hooved looking feet with stiletto backings and spikes along her gastroc, so along her calves. Yeah. So I decided to do kind of a sexy demon lady in her stilettos. And this is the word stretch. It's an act of stretching one's limbs or body. I found a really awesome picture of a guy doing contortion online and was inspired to do my own version of that, of course. And I went with just a person. This is pretty much the exact pose the guy was in. You couldn't see his head, so I just kind of followed through, except I added just a little bit more shadowing on the rib cage area. And because tapered, pointed fingers are always pretty badass, so that's why those are there. And of course I made him a little more angular, a little more bony. Here's another one that I honestly don't even know. But it's for the word thunder. Again, couldn't think of anything. So I just went with a Predator meets Thor, the god of thunder approach, where you can imagine that would be quite the terrifying thing. A predator, alien of sort, wielding the hammer and having the abilities that Thor would have, the great strength and the godly of godly proportion. So that could be a little bit terrifying. And thunder is a loud rumbling sound after a flash of lightning. Boom, ba-doom, ba-doom, boom, boom. Yeah, so I was kind of not, I don't know, let's zoom in on that guy's face. Yeah. Honestly, whatever. It's done and over with at this point. I kind of think that would be a neat painting to do. Maybe do a better version of him from the side. Possibly showing off more of his helmet with the feathery type of wing-like applications on the side, and then holding the hammer in his big clawed spotted hand. I figured, I drew the xenomorph, I drew the alien, so I might as well add in a predator somewhere. Okay, so this one was kind of, if you're looking at it, you probably don't know what the heck it is. It's for the word gift, and this is the act of giving something willingly and offering. I went with a galaxy approach, And right here is supposed to be the Horsehead Nebula, just blending into this galaxy. I wanted it to represent how we are technically a gift from the universe, you know, a willingly given thing, an offering, and a life created out of that. So everything in the universe is a gift, and I just think that the Horsehead Nebula is such a fascinating form of dark matter that we've caught on, we've photographed to some degree, or that's out there among many other things going on in the universe. Okay, so we got the word double, consisting of two equal, identical, or similar parts or things. I found a little two-headed corn snake online and just drew a basic little two-headed one here. This head being mostly the dominant, and this one possibly a little bit more on the parasitic side. It was a little smaller originally in the image, and both seemed, you know, pretty chill with each other at this point in their little lives. Neither, you know, caring the fact that they're sharing a body. So double, double, toil and trouble. I was actually going to go with a Shakespeare one on the word double, but I think honestly I was getting kind of lazy by the end, in all honesty. Oh, what's this one? Jolt. Oh my gosh. That is another one that I just, for the life of me, could not come up with anything. I was drawing something, I think I was going to draw something else, but I ended up just going with an electric chair, but like an old vintage one where there were no, there's no apparatus, nothing attached to it. It was just where they would strap you in this metal chair. Below had the foot binds here where they would put your feet in water, and they would put a cap on your head and, you know, do the deed after that. So jolt is a sudden, strong increase in energy, which you'd definitely be experiencing if you were electrocuted. Unfortunately, it was one of the ways of, death row back in the day, which is still ongoing, but not to this primitive sort of thing. And we reach our final one. It is the word slice. So slice is cutting into thin portions. So I went with, I saw something similar online of a wraith, and wraiths are supposedly dark, kind of spectral beings that come about when someone has died, either the person's dark energy themselves or a possible other entity hanging around the area because death had occurred. Therefore, I went with autopsy slices on his very narrow, bony chest and a kind of sunken looking face with like some vein action happening here, turning then into just kind of like a wisp or a mist of some nature. So for any of you who want to go back to my previous video and watch the slideshow, feel free to comment below which is your favorite. If you have any questions or anything like that, please let me know, comment below, and I hope you enjoy this long video on the description of the Inktober challenge, which was a very fun experience. I hope to do it again next year, and I'll probably be doing one quite similar to this using this little sketchbook. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good rest of your night or day, depending on where you're watching this from. And I'll talk to you all again soon. Bye-bye.